All right, it is late June and we are going to interseed and fertilize corn today for a food plot. We're standing here on the smaller corn plot that I planted a little over a month ago, 5 or 6 weeks. And it's at the point now where we're actually going to come in and interseed it. I'll explain what that is and then give it some nitrogen. As of late, my favorite food plot is actually a cornfield, especially for mid-October on through the late season. There's 2 things I don't like about corn though. 3 things really. It's expensive and difficult to plant, so there's that. But we're gonna throw that one out. The second thing is that it's not super attractive early. Interseeding is gonna help us combat that. The third thing, I guess, second/third, is that it's not great for the soil to keep planting corn, and it doesn't do much as far as soil conservation after the corn dries down. So you basically have bare dirt from November through the following spring. Interseeding is also going to combat that. So what interseeding is in this application is we're going to come in here at this stage of growth in the corn. I'll explain what stage that is. We're actually going to seed in a green mix, so a green food plot mix. And what we're doing right now is we kind of made this mix up with Frigid Forage, but essentially it's big and Beasty, so brassicas, and then plowed on clover, so annual clovers. And then I'm adding Austrian winter peas to that. We're gonna broadcast it into the standing corn. The idea is that those seeds are gonna germinate where there's still plenty of sunlight hitting the dirt. Okay, they're gonna establish, and then the corn's gonna grow up over in canopy. And once that happens, that's really going to slow the growth rate of those plants. And then when the corn starts to dry down, there's going to be a little more sunlight getting down through. And then in late September, October, you're going to get a little more flush of growth on that green cover underneath the corn, and you're going to have essentially a green food plot underneath standing corn, which I think is about the best you can get. The mix we have is going to have the clovers, so it has attractiveness in the early season. It's going to have peas, which is also attractive in the early season. Both legumes that are going to help fix nitrogen and put nitrogen back in the soil. And then we're going to have those brassicas, which are super attractive really through most of the hunting season. If we were to do this earlier, then we're doing it now, earlier in the year. Those plants are gonna get too mature and they're gonna compete with the corn, and the corn isn't gonna have much yield. We're at this point now in the growth of the corn where we probably will have a little bit of yield loss on the ears that it makes, but not enough to make a big difference, and it's definitely worth getting that green food source under there. So we'll talk a little bit about the stage we're in right now. So let's take this one example, it's a nice big one. We wanna do this between the what's called the V3 and V6 stage. So that's vegetative 4 and 6. So basically it's the 4 and 6 leaf stage. So we count the leaves, you start there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this plant right here is in V6. So this is kind of the end, end of the window we want to do this. Plant the collars. These are obviously leaves, but they don't have a collar there. So you're only planting the collar to stage the corn. So there may be some plants here that are in V5 or V4. So the next thing we're doing is we're gonna add nitrogen. This is also the stage where corn is really gonna start to uptake a lot of nitrogen in the next stages after V6. So we have 100 pounds of treated or inhibited urea here. So it's 4600, super high in nitrogen, and we're gonna put 100 pounds on this 1 acre food plot. I already did fertilize it on planting, so this plot, because I'm trying to maximize it, it's not a big plot and I don't have the acreage, I think probably put over 200 pounds of nitrogen on this particular plot. The other thing is that nitrogen is going to give a little bit of food for that cover crop or that interseed mix that I'm putting in here. Another good thing about this interseed mix is going to hold the soil, and in the spring we're going to have a green cover to plant into again. So we're going to get that today. The first thing we're going to seed is the peas. I'm going higher on the seed rate, almost double on the peas, because peas really need to get in the soil. We're not going to have that here broadcasting on top. There's going to be some challenges with germination and establishment of those peas. So I'm gonna go super heavy. The other thing is those peas are gonna get browsed right away by the deer. So I would say if we see double that rate, we're probably gonna end up with even probably less the recommended rate. So I'm doing a half rate of peas, and then a quarter of those annual clovers, and a quarter of the brassica mix. So because we are gonna struggle with seed to soil contact, particularly with these peas, which is a bigger seed as you can see, compared to the clover and brassica. There's the mix right there, the clover brassica mix. Way less seed it takes to do this, but the seeds are much smaller. We're gonna seed this first separately from that. For the reason that these seeds are much bigger, and if we put them all in the spreader together, it's not going to seed at an even rate. Some of those smaller seeds are going to go out. These are going to stay on the top in the bag, and they're not going to be evenly distributed across the food plot. The second reason I'm doing this separately and first is because I'm going to get those peas down, and I'm going to walk across this a few more times, obviously seeding the Big and Beasty and the Plow and Clover, and then the fertilizer, and me walking on that between the rows is going to help get that seed down into the ground a little bit. So not a huge impact, but enough that it's worth doing first. So that's what we're going to get to first. Okay, just finished. We got the peas in, the interseed mix from Big and Beasty, and the nitrogen on the ground, hoping for rain to get those seeds off to a good start, get them established, and get that nitrogen down to the corn. Hopefully, the rest of the summer, the growing is good, and we have a ton of food here to hunt over this fall. Maybe we'll kill one of these big bucks on this food plot come December, come September, we'll see. I'm excited about it. It should be a good spot to sit. I think it's finally all coming together on this property.